Hey, Disturbing listeners, Love is Blind, Season 5. Let's check it out.
That I'm free to be me.
I have a confession.
What?
I'm just going to be open with you because I have some weird things that I do. Okay, so the first one, for some reason, that skin that's on your elbow, I like to grab it sometimes.
What? You like to grab the elbow skin?
I don't know why, Uche, don't judge me. Okay?
The Weenus, right? Is it called the Weenus? That's what Stacy, my wife, does. Elbow skin name. It is called a Weenus. It's a slang word for the excess or loose skin at the joint of one's elbow, which is technically referred to as the olecranon skin. But yeah, the Weenus. Stacy does that to me too. It's been a while since she's done that. You don't squeeze my Weenus anymore. Oh, God.
Okay, you said you're going to accept me for all of me.
The Weenus. You like to grab the Weenus. That's what it's called, right? The Weenus?
I don't know what it's called, but I like it.
Pretty sure it's called the Weenus.
Yeah. It's funny. With Uche, I feel like he says a lot of the things that I'll say it and then he'll say it. So I want to revisit that whole thing with them because I'm recording this without having that episode having been released. So I don't know what's in the comment section, and I'm worried based on previous experience that I might have overemphasized one part of several things that I might want to emphasize. I want to highlight, if I didn't already, that it is possible that Uche has some issue with his assumptions and with his way and his personality, such that when they had that conversation, he was overly harsh and pointed and interrogating. The other thing I want to clear up is Aliyah or Aaliyah? I keep trying to hear it again. I was talking with Stacy upstairs. That's why I was pointing up. She's not in heaven. I was just pointing upstairs. And I was talking with her. I said Aliyah, and she's like, I think it's Aaliyah. Aaliyah sounds right. Okay, I'm pretty sure it's Aaliyah. So I'm going to go with that for now. At the very least, if it's Aliyah, I will have been right before and wrong now, which maybe it all balances out. And by the time I hear someone say it again, which I'm guessing will happen at some point, because they don't say each other's names very often. So it's, there's a possibility that Uche has an issue. And especially if you have a history of being talked down to or having been mansplained to death by somebody over time, or if you had someone that put you down or criticized you, made you feel small, then there's a good chance that when you watch that scene, it's going to be triggering. And it's something that doesn't get talked about very much. The trauma of having chronically been put down, belittled, judged, made to feel wrong, made to feel like someone else has this intellectual authority over you, even by a parent. You would say, well, don't parents have some intellectual authority? Yeah, but within reason, right? There are plenty of teenagers currently right now who are sitting there being lectured to by their parents about things that they shouldn't be lectured to, in a way that they shouldn't be lectured to, and in a way too long format than they should be lectured to. So if you have traumas around that, then that scene is going to be rough. It's going to definitely trigger you. I'm not saying that your triggering distorts your perception. It just attunes your perception such that you can highlight Uche's tone and his demeanor as a potential red flag. We don't know, though. I think Uche has, as I've been saying earlier, a particular interesting way of communicating that I can't really interpret yet. On one hand, and it might be both, on one hand, he can come across as robotic, I suppose is one insulting word we could use. Another would be that he, as I was saying before, matter of fact, which isn't the best descriptor in my book, but he's pretty to the point and blunt, but not in the way that annoying people use the word blunt. People will say blunt, so I'm just blunt, and then they will just proceed to annoy everyone around them and bulldoze it. Hey, I'm just a blunt person, or I come from a blunt culture. It's like, it doesn't work that way, Mildred. So he's actually what I would call blunt and not in the necessarily annoying way. He might be, though. But then he very quickly, without being prompted seemingly by anybody, he just came out of nowhere and apologized and even identified that if he continued to do that, it would actually make her shut down, which would make her not want to be truthful to him, which is pretty advanced way to think about things. I don't even know if she had thought about that second point. She might have. So if he did have a red flag around that, how is he able to so quickly turn that around in a way that we've never seen on this show before, where someone actually apologizes genuinely, seemingly, and takes full responsibility without having any prompting? He just needed to sleep on it, and he woke up and said, I've figured out. And there didn't seem to be any backlash. Like, he didn't punish her or say, well, you need to work. There wasn't any ifs, ands, or buts or caveats about his apology. He just, I'm sorry. And it was also delivered in a blunt way. He didn't hem and haw about it. He didn't say, like, yeah, yesterday I'm sorry and I feel bad. It was just like, I did something wrong and here we go. I'm just going to tell you that I was wrong and you were right, or whatever. So I don't know what to think of Uche at this point. It's possible that there's a red flag there for an abusive tendency. It's also possible that he is easily misunderstood based on his style of communicating. It's also possible that he is both matter of fact, so to speak, in his particular way of communicating and perceiving social cues and that kind of thing. And he also has a tendency to abuse people. We don't know. We just had one incident thus far as I remember. So there's that. And the way that Aaliyah was reacting in the moment could be setting up a dynamic. She didn't. We'd imagine if Stacy and Izzy. I always have to clarify that because my wife's name is Stacy. That with Stacy, if she were in Aaliyah's shoes and Uche was speaking to Stacy that way, we would imagine a different reaction. Not necessarily a better or worse one, but a different one, a more defensive reaction, right? Whereas Aaliyah was looking down, and as he was being more of a stern father, she was becoming more of a child that was being criticized or disciplined or something, or lectured to. And that's a little worrisome because there's neither one of them will have the ability to say, hey, let's work on this. Let's not go down that road. And there are a lot of the couples that come into my office will have something like that. It won't necessarily look like this, but there will be some dynamic that will become exaggerated over time, where one person becomes more of the responsible, stressed out one, and the other person becomes the carefree / irresponsible one, or the more childish one. Think Kalani and Swelu, or there's countless other couples that we've watched here. Anyway, so I want to say that. I also want to say that the interaction gives us an opportunity to talk about various things, as is true when we watch any of these interactions. I hope that it's clear that what I'm trying to do on this channel is to use these examples as a jumping off point to raise questions. Does that mean that I'm always right-headed or emphasizing the right things in the right amount? No. I'm one person with my particular cultural pocket and my particular bias, and I do my best, and if I make a mistake, I'll adjust. And maybe, since I haven't aired the episode yet, I have yet to read the comments to realize that I made a mistake. I did check in with Stacy, not of Izzy, but of me, the one upstairs. And I asked her, I said, so here was my general take on the Uche Aaliyah situation with the infidelity in Aaliyah's past. What did you think? And she was like, yeah, that was pretty much the way it looked to me as well. And so I had one person's opinion, and Stacy, although one particular person, one cultural pocket as well, one bias, but she often does react. When she has a different reaction than me, I often will see that reflected in the comment section, So there's that. And it's also okay to have some disagreements. It's not possible for you and I to constantly agree on everything. The key is how do we talk about it? How do we listen, and how do we incorporate? How do I listen to you, and how do I incorporate what you're saying to me? So let's not limit ourselves to always agreeing with each other. That is ridiculous and doesn't promote learning and expanding oneself. Everything that I know and do as a clinician and a YouTuber has been influenced by other people. I didn't spring from the womb with all these thoughts and perspectives. Everything that I say is an accumulation of learning and experience and feedback and making mistakes and having successes that were rewarded as such. And here I am today, and I'll continue to refine as we move forward. The future is over there, the past is over there, just to make sure everyone knows. So what else can I say about these two? They seem to have recovered. So the other thing I want to say is that for the two of them, it might not be as big of a deal to them as it seems to us, because they're with each other for hours and hours every day. We just see these little snippets. So that's another thing I want to point out. And also that people shouldn't be going after them. I just want to remind everyone, I'm sure you don't need to be reminded, that you shouldn't be going into Uche or Aaliyah's DMs and saying something about their relationship, unless it's positive, I suppose. But to say to Aaliyah, you need to leave him, red flags or something, people do that. Like, I wouldn't doubt that today Aaliyah has literally thousands of DMs or comments on our Instagram that are saying things like that. You better not marry that guy. You're a fool if you do, or whatever. And for Uche, similar kinds of things. We just don't know. We don't know what's going on. And it's not our place to do so. And if you ever see that sort of thing, I hope that you kindly suggest that these individuals can surely talk amongst themselves on Reddit or in the comments section, but they shouldn't be going after these people because they don't know. It's not their business to actually attack or get involved in these people's lives. They have enough to worry about. Anyway, so the other thing that I should mention is that if you have been cheated on, then you will also be triggered, especially if you were cheated on and you weren't validated enough for the pain that you went through, or you were cheated on by a partner, or you're currently with a partner that cheats on you and makes excuses like, well, my needs weren't met. That can also be this could be very triggering for that. And you might have a particular reaction to that, and that I want to honor all of those reactions. But we have to recognize that there's a variety of reactions and perspectives that can be said when we use these things as a jumping off point, right? We can have compassion for Aaliyah. We can have compassion for Uche. We can identify with one or the other and still understand there's another side of the story. As I said in the previous video, do I think that Aaliyah is a bad person? No, I do not. I don't have any reason to believe that she's not a bad person necessarily, because we just don't know, but she's not trending in that direction. It seems like there's a good chance that she is a moral, thoughtful, kind, considerate individual that would not likely cheat on Uche in the future. Having said that, as I was saying in the previous video, we all can do better for ourselves and others when we have a robust system of evaluating our behavior and taking responsibility and criticizing ourselves without falling into a deep pit of despair. We need to be able to do that. That is our responsibility. Every individual in a relationship, whether it's a marriage or a friendship or a coworker, we all have to clean up our own workstation before we can criticize someone else, right? Or at least if we all work on our own workstation, if we all work on our own behavior and our own personality issues and our own tendencies, then we don't have to criticize other people because we're all taking care of our own side of the fence. Or someone can criticize us and then we will take that ball and run with it. They don't have to convince us of that. We have to do what we can with that. Do people do that? No. Aaliyah, the way that she presented it, at least in the beginning, it seemed like she was making a lot of excuses for her behavior. And I was saying, as I was reacting, I don't think she's actually representing what's inside of her heart, especially when we heard what she was saying later, how bad she felt and how guilty she felt for so long, right? So I'm guessing that she has that black and white way of thinking that a lot of people do, where it's just like, in order for me to not feel like I'm a piece of shit, I have to have these defenses that say, well, I had my reasons. But there's another mode besides I hate myself and I'm worthless, or I had reasons. There's another mode of, I made a mistake. I had my reasons, but it didn't justify what I did. I don't beat myself up about it, and I'm guessing a lot of other people have done that before. Doesn't make it okay. And I have a tendency to avoid sometimes. I have a tendency to just follow my nose and not zoom out and think of the big picture. I should have broken up with him right away. In fact, I should have broken up with him before I even cheated, because I probably knew I should have left him a long time before I cheated, but I just couldn't do it because I didn't want to hurt him. And I have a tendency to worry about whether or not I'm going to ever meet someone else. That doesn't justify it, but I have my traumatic relational reasons as to why I overemphasize those fears. And I just was really scared, and I didn't know what to do. And I got drunk, and there was this guy, and one thing led to another, and it's not an excuse, but it wasn't good. And I worry that it might happen again. And the things that I'm doing to prevent that from happening again are, saying something like that is not something that people usually say in situations like this. And that is a problem for the individual, because if you don't do that for yourself, if you don't give the gift of critical thinking regarding your personality, then you are constantly going to repeat the past. This has to do with all the apology videos that I make. Apology is all wrapped up in that, the ability to truly feel remorse without feeling like you're a piece of shit, and also have some process of exploring your personality and da-da-da-da. So I'm probably just repeating myself, but the last thing that I'll say that I didn't say that I was thinking about saying, but is that I don't want to be that guy that says this, because this is kind of a cliche among men in the manosphere. But what if the genders were reversed? What if it was a man that had cheated in the past? What if Aaliyah had asked Uche, have you ever cheated before? And Uche was like, yeah, I cheated 2 years ago, but it was because she wasn't having sex with me. She wasn't meeting my sexual needs, so I cheated on her. And what am I supposed to do? Just like stay in a sexless relationship? Yeah, of course, I had an affair. That's what happened. I'm just going to take a guess and say that the audience would have reacted differently. Like I said, I don't want to be that guy that says that, because it is different. There is the patriarchy. There is sexism that has to be, it's not a one-for-one equal situation. But I just wonder, and I've said this before, that I've noticed, not necessarily on this channel's comment section, but in the world, just in the real world, I will notice that when a heterosexual woman talks about cheating, like she had an affair, the assumption or the questions people will ask, even if it's just a stranger, not a friend, just a stranger, the questions is like, well, I wonder how bad the husband was. I wonder what the husband did to cause her to seek out someone else. Whereas if a man has, in a heterosexual relationship, has an affair, the assumption is he's a dog. I mean, am I wrong about that? And we have a culture around that. And so I think that also kind of potentially plays into that. And I should admit that because that hurts my feelings, because as a man, I lose out on that in a number of ways. If someone were to cheat on me, they would think that was my fault automatically. It could be my fault, but it's automatically my fault. It's never really my fault, but you know what I'm saying? Like if I played a major role in producing the factors that led to her cheating on me, that doesn't feel good. Also, this assumption that if I cheat, then I'm a dog. I'm a dog by default because I'm a man. I'm a constant, horny, uncontrollable animal when it comes to sex just because I'm a man. And that I've heard over and over again. And that hurts my feelings. It demeans me. It dehumanizes me. It makes me into some sort of caricature, cartoon of a human. And I have been hurt by that throughout my life, and have, or at least once I woke up to the feeling or something, because there's probably time in my life when I literally thought that was a good thing to be seen that way. Anyway, when I was a kid, teenager. But I have pain around that. So when I watch this scene, my first reaction will probably, and did, if I think back on it, reflect that hurt. I probably overemphasized elements that had to do with her issues rather than his, right? Now, I will let myself off the hook a little bit, because if you watch the scene, and I actually rewatched the scene to see like if I was doing something weird, is that in the beginning, he's he's just asking questions. You could say it's a little pointed, but the things that he's asking are logical given the way she's responding, because she only says the things that were potentially helpful to hear later in the conversation. Everything she said in the beginning of the conversation, and remember, he doesn't know her, and he's very interested in knowing this issue because it absolutely pertains to his relationship with her, of being with her. And I think he has some trauma. I think they both have some trauma about being cheated on. I feel like a lot of the folks on this show have had trauma around being cheated. I mean, infidelity is fairly common, but I do wonder if it's worse now or if it's easier to find out now, because it's not like cheating is new. But anyway, so I have a bias, and I have a history, and I am a man, and so I am going to react. And I try to zoom out and keep that in check, but there's a possibility that I probably was. In fact, I did check in with my wife about that, and when the first thing that she was highlighting, as she was talking about it, she was emphasizing Uche's behavior more than I was at the time. So I was like, oh, yeah, I'm probably reacting from my man position, or my position as someone that, another bias of mine, another pain of mine is I have a lot of couples in my office talking about infidelity, or individuals talking about infidelity, and this cultural bias regarding gender I have seen in my office, and it'll get frustrating. Like, I have had individual women clients, heterosexual women clients who have talked about how they have cheated on their current partner or past partners, and their narrative around it will often be in the direction of self-justification and liberation. It's almost like cheating is this feminist act, which of course doesn't make any sense. They weren't really framing it that way. And for the record, I am a feminist. I'm not saying that feminism is bad. I hope everyone knows that. I'm sure if you watch me enough, you would know that. I've identified as a feminist since, for 30 years. And I'm not talking about what people will call feminism. I'm talking about academic feminism and feminism within my field, which is the knowledge and the recognition and the responsiveness to bias against women and the systems against women and the history of sexism and harm and unfair dehumanization of women and the way it currently plays out, and our brainwashing, indoctrination. It's not complicated. It's obvious. It's scientific. It's in the data. So I want to be clear about that. But so even with clients, I have had that experience. Even with students, I'll present a case to students, and I will hear that bias. And as a man, I guess maybe this is the first time I've really fully reckoned with the whole thing. And that's kind of the beauty of these shows, is if we use them as a jumping off point, we can explore and discover for ourselves that I have known that I have this hurt, but I don't think I have fully appreciated it. So it's a good place to end.
Okay, so here's another weird thing I do. I like to eat Splenda packs and honey. Just eat it.
What?
Uche.
Why?
I don't know.
You just get like a spoonful of honey and put a Splenda pack on it?
No, it's separately. I'm just saying those are weird things that I just like to eat all on its own.
Who the hell are you, Winnie the...
Well, yeah, honey, absolutely. That's not weird, having honey on its own. But yeah, but Splenda, that is weird. But each to their own. As a Japanese American, I have had a lifetime of people making fun of me and cringing at the things that I eat. I grew up in the 70s and 80s when sushi was considered disgusting to Americans. And now it's fancy to Americans. Never mind about other Asian kinds of Japanese delicacies or Japanese American acquired delicacies like Spam, that kind of thing. So I would never Splenda shame anybody. All right, well, that does it for that episode. Everyone, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.